you can only use LCBDCs and nothing else. If that is the type of regulation they have in the US, it would be very bearish for Bitcoin and crypto in the short to medium term. But even in that case, in that scenario, most people who are switched on would say, okay, so are you saying then that basically the government is going to control exactly how we spend our money, and they can see exactly where we spend our money? And if that's the case, then Bitcoin and these cryptos might be a good, safe protection away from the government, whether that's US or China or Australia or wherever. And the thing is, that used to be gold. That actually used to be gold because people used to hoard gold under their beds just in case their fiat currency crashes. Now that thing might turn out to be Bitcoin. And to your point more directly, Brian, that anytime when you have light or reasonable, I stress the word, it's reasonable regulation, it is fantastic for an asset. Like if you look at cannabis, that industry, it went up like 300x or something before it crashed because there is regulation, and regulation is good. It's like anything. It's like gun laws, for example. In Australia and New Zealand, they don't have they have very stringent gun laws. In the US, they have more relaxed gun laws. And look at the weapons industry in the US; it's just booming. So basically, light regulation, as long as it's not the type of regulation to kill it. Like in China, I'll use it again as an example. They have gun regulation which kills it, which kills no one can hold any guns, no one can hold any cryptos and Bitcoin. That's when it crashes. Reasonable regulation, like with whether it's banking, whether it's property, whether it's any asset, cannabis or guns, as long as it's reasonable, it's protecting the consumer, which means consumers and institutional money feel safe about coming in to actually invest in the area. So that's actually good for Bitcoin in the medium to long term.
Yeah, it was interesting reading these proposed regulations. I mean, people need to know that so far this is only a proposal, and it's a proposal by senators who are bullish on crypto. So there could be a lot of changes, but it was very clear in a lot of ways. And the one area that I honed in on that was a little bit unclear was, of course, the securities question of, do these virtual currencies, are they backed by financial assets? But even the way they wrote and approached that was very bullish to me. They one of the things they recommended in the regulation that I really thought was interesting was a sandbox environment, a crypto regulation sandbox where new crypto startups, and a lot of the people who are listening now to Pablo and I are very into startups, small caps, 100x potential coins. But they were trying to make it so that these small caps had an incubation environment where they could survive. And so no matter how we look at it, it's going to take, 6 months for any of these regulations to actually go through, or longer. And when they finally do go through, I think that we've gone over the hump, so to speak, and we're going to be on the downhill side of it being a bullish thing. And, innovation is going to continue. So I really feel everything is setting up to be very macro bullish. And if you guys think that that's wrong, then just take a look at the market sentiment around right now. Everything's bearish. When it's bearish, you want to be bullish. Now, I'm not saying we're near the bottom right now. Pablo's the charts guy to tell us when we're near the bottom. I'm just saying whether it's this month or next month or 6 months from now when we're at the bottom, it's looking like there's a bullish pivot coming relatively soon.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, Brian, because my view is basically, obviously, I can't really show any charts here. I'm on Instagram Live now as well, so I'll record the session and show a few charts. But if you guys if you're in front of your laptops and if you open up your own charts, if you look at Bitcoin is obviously in what I would call a bull flag, and I've been calling that bull flag for quite a while now. So most people don't see it because they're looking at, look, here's the thing. If most people are looking at the USDT chart, if you're looking at the USDT tether chart, USDT only went down to, let's get it onto the daily. USDT only went down to the, daily. Where is it? 1 second. USDT only went down to 27,000. So it doesn't look like a bull flag. See, this is USDT. basically because you don't have much of a flagpole there. Whereas if you look at the real one, the US dollar or USDC chart, it looks very much like a bull flag, because on that day, remember, USDT was the reason why it crashed. That flagpole is much longer. So young USDT chart, the Bitcoin actually went down to something like 24.4 thousand or 25,000 on some charts. The reason why is because USDT or Tether was crashing that day. Remember, that's the reason why everything was crashing, because Tether wasn't worth $1 anymore. Therefore, if Tether is worth less, so therefore Bitcoin's worth more compared to Tether. But compared to the real US dollar, Bitcoin went down to 24,000 that day. So that's a very long flagpole, because it's come back to 29,000 now. So if we look at, I'll flip the camera. If we look at the chart again now that is flagpole, and you've got a flag. We've got a breakout of the flag. We kept on retesting that 92.2 area, low 90K area, and it's bouncing off that upper channel, bouncing off that flag. And I've literally just said to my Discord this morning, I said, do you know what, guys? The whole market is right now just... See, Brian, like, I don't know if you noticed this, but when we talk about inflation, people are like, oh, boring, just tell us it's going to go up or down. Hey, here's the thing, right? I said a few weeks ago, I said, basically everyone's just waiting for peak inflation. The inflation data came out this day, and that's when Bitcoin bottomed. It's literally gone sideways. It's gone to sleep for the next entire month, and it's waiting for 1 month for the next inflation data figure, which comes out this Friday morning, US time. I think it's 8:30 a.m. US New York time, 8:30 a.m. If it's bad, it's going to go down and do a retest of 25K. I think it'll be a higher bottom this time. If it's a bad number, which means it's higher than 8.3%, it'll do a retest somewhere around 26K, dare I say, and then bounce up. I think that's the bottom for now, for the next few weeks, next few, like 2-3 months. If it's a good number, I think it'll just break out of this range and just go to about 37K would be the minimum target. I mean, we see that kind of on Ethereum as well. Ethereum basically is basically forming this double. In my opinion, it's a falling wedge. So if you look at it, if anyone's looking at the Ethereum chart, basically you can see that this was a massive falling wedge, right? And then you have a small falling wedge here. So in theory, this doesn't always work, but in theory, it basically bounces to somewhere around there. That's around the low 1700s, 1708, 1710, 1720, or as low as 1680-ish, 1670, and then it takes off from there. That's usually how these patterns work, but it doesn't work every time. Of course, they don't know. The market is just guessing that the number is going to turn out to be a good one, or a relatively good one. They're looking for peak inflation. They were waiting for it on May the 11th, ready with buy orders. It didn't happen. So the market crashed. So they're betting this time that it's probably going to happen again. I'll show one more thing. See, the reason why we think that is because, see this yellow chart? I've shown this in my other videos before. This yellow chart is basically, let me flip the camera. This yellow, This yellow line is the Bitfinex longs. So Bitfinex whales going long, and you can see in the history of Bitcoin, the Bitfinex whales, if you can find that chart by googling it, is as long as it has ever been, and by a huge margin. So they've went mega long on May the 11th when Bitcoin crashed to about 25K. I'm not saying to go long now, because they've obviously positioned themselves when Bitcoin was below 27,000. And to go long now at 31K isn't the way to do it, unless you know somebody who works at the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and you know something we don't. So that's my take on it. But I stress, this is only for the next few weeks, maybe 2 months. So for now, I think it's still a bear market bounce or rally for Bitcoin and crypto. For the stocks, I actually think it actually has a chance of going near its old all-time high. I mean, that's it sounds pretty crazy since it's down 30% right now, but I think that's actually possible.
Do you mean that as a melt up, or like sort of a dead cat bounce?
I don't like to use the word melt up. I know that some other commentators call it the melt up. I mean, the way I see it, if you say melt up, then you leave yourself with no room. Unless it goes, a melt up means it has to take out the old all-time high. If it takes out the old all-time high, then great, you're Nostradamus and you predicted the future. But however, I think it'll be a big bounce, because once we get peak inflation, we'll get a big hell of a bounce. That's where I'll leave it. I'll say it's a big bounce. I leave open the possibility can actually take out for the stocks, not for Bitcoin, can actually take out the old all-time high and create a new all-time high. That is actually about 15-20% possibility in my books. Going near the old all-time high, creating some sort of double bottom, is actually like a 40 to 50% probability in my books. So I'm actually bullish on stocks right now. I've been buying a couple of techs, a couple of stocks that Buffett has been buying. I've been buying Chinese stocks as well. Crypto, I do think that things like AVAX, Solana will get a big bounce after Friday if we get the right number. They'll break out of that folding wedge patterns, and it'll be a big, massive bounce. But of course, nothing is 100%. What if the number comes out to be higher than 8.3%? Then we're in trouble. It could actually go down. So it's not a sure bet sort of thing. But all the whales are leaning for it to go up. I'm leaning for it to be a nice bounce as well. If not, just have stop losses ready, and then have further buy stops at ridiculously low levels underneath. Like whack some buy stops on 1450, 1420 on Ethereum. If it's going to crash, then pick it up there again. Anyways, like most listeners don't, or people who watch us don't understand how to manage their risks, and they say stuff like, "Oh, it didn't go up," or "It didn't go down. You said it was going to go down." Anyways, back to you, Brian.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about how you were basically the only one who called out the importance of inflation and the Fed tapering and everything, and all these other guys are, copying and pasting fractals. Remember the fractal days where they'd copy the parabolic?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you're the one that's nailed it pretty well, and I think that our audience from polls that I have done are made up of a lot of traders and long-term investors, and people need to know which one they're doing, right? They need to ask themselves, am I trading crypto or am I investing in crypto? And that's where I think it's really interesting. I did a video on this a few days back, but if you look at the correlation with the stock market, there are certain periods when Bitcoin in crypto is highly correlated to stock market, certain periods when it completely uncouples. And we're obviously in one of those correlated periods right now, but people need to be aware that, crypto still has such a small market cap overall that if the adoption curve continues, even if it doesn't continue right now, people need to be ready for sort of a rapid onset decoupling again. And I like to think of it as having two stacks, like a trading stack and a long-term investing stack, which I just wanted to list a few quick points on why Bitcoin is going to be so fundamentally strong. First, a lot of you guys probably already know this, but as Bitcoin dominance goes up and we're totally out of alt season and all these altcoins are dumping and many of them are going to zero, I think that if people want to be in crypto, it's definitely the safest to be in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be the one that pumps again first, right? Eventually, when we get back into a bull run, then we can sort of use our position in Bitcoin to watch the market and say, Bitcoin just went to 35, 40,000, whatever. And now do we want to get back in the alt? So people just need to continue to be careful trading these alts. Of course, regulations are going to hurt altcoins also more than Bitcoin. If anything, Bitcoin's going to be classified as a commodity, which was what the crypto bill said yesterday, is it's going to be more of a commodity. So, there's this potential, I still think, for Bitcoin to heavily decouple from the stock market. But, that's just one priority. Are we trading? Are we investing?
Okay, so basically, let me just reply to a lot of my listeners on Instagram. Apparently, because I'm running Instagram and Twitter at the same time, so basically, it doesn't work on Instagram. So basically, people have to come on Twitter, or else I have to figure out how to log into my Instagram account on my laptop. Anyways, It's I should have prepared for this earlier.
If you want to do like 15 more minutes of Twitter Spaces and then just jump completely over to Instagram, I'm fine with that. We can just tell our listeners.
Okay, sure. How about we go up to like on the half hour, and then we jump back in on the Instagram live.
Yeah.
I'll have to. Huh? So basically, yeah. Okay. So sorry, what was the last point you were making, Brian? About buying Bitcoin. Yeah, my point exactly as well. I think what I've been saying to my Discord is that the two coins that I would think about, it's probably for now, without doing a whole ton of research like the way Daniel does research, is probably Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's sort of like buying. It's a little bit like buying Amazon and eBay, or Amazon and Pets.com when everything crashed in 2002, 2003, and Amazon went from $105, $120, went down to $8, like a 93% crash. So during that time, if you bought some Amazon, if you bought some Pets.com, if you bought some eBay, just those 2 or 3 the safest names, you would come out, basically not needing to work. A few $1,000s each, you'd be retired by now. You didn't really need to work after about 5 or 10 years, and one of them would have went down, but the other one or two is still hanging around. I think for now, basically, it's good to be in a. I don't want to call this a bear market yet, because I don't think that the real bear has started. I think we're going to get a big bounce, and maybe people will be like, "Oh, that wasn't a real bear market." It depends on how you define it, but I think that it is good that we get this sort of environment where it feels like a bear market, and by technical measures, you could say it's a bear market, and then we have a number of crashes, and people realize, oh my God, all the things that we thought were safe, like Luna, it's going to $1,000. No, it's going to zero, buddy. Like Solana, it's going to be the next Ethereum killer. It doesn't even stay online. It crashes all the time. It's had how many crashes? I've lost count, like 7 or something. So, and keep in mind, I've been very bullish on Luna and Solana when they were like at $7, $5, right? When they ran up to like $120, $150, $200, I was like, okay, if Bitcoin goes below 50K from here, maybe we should take some profits. This is not looking good. But people don't want to listen. They hear this hodl thing and they keep on hodling. And now, of course, no one can get the timing exactly right, and I didn't get it exactly right. But when you look back over the last 12 months that people have been listening to me, you find that overall I have been more accurate than probably most on all of this. And a lot of it is common sense, and you preach a lot of common sense as well. And if you just listen to people like me and Brian, and you would have gotten out of it looking a lot better. You wouldn't have timed the exact bottom or the exact tops, but you've gotten out a lot better. And what we say quite often is just common sense, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a new market.
Yep.
It's a new market, and there's certain things that are for sure in new markets, and one of those is that there's going to be a lot of experiments and failures. I mean, the one thing that, when Luna collapsed, Pablo and I were not surprised at all. The whole Twitter's blowing up. Oh my gosh, can you believe this? And we're this is not.
Just to interrupt you, Brian, during the Luna crash, I was in my Discord and I was telling folks I would short this. And then when it went to $18, people were like, buy it now. I was like, I think it's programmed to zero. I'm no computer genius, I'm no brainiac when it comes to programming. But isn't the idea that as long as UST is under $1, you gotta mint more Luna and basically just swap it for UST and to prop up the price of UST, which means the more Luna you mint, the more supply, the more it goes down. And UST is nowhere near $1 right now. I think this is going to zero. It's a death spiral, and we, not everyone listened. Not even all of the people in my Discord got out in time. Some were still holding on to Luna, and people told me they lost like 65 grand or whatever. But I kept on saying, this is going to zero. This is going to zero. If I shorted, I got out of the short, and I jumped back into the short and rode 2/3 of the wave down. And there was a couple of guys who rode all the way down, and they made like big money in my Discord and paying off school, university fees. The point is, if even this Luna thing now, it's ridiculous. The way I can tell that a real bear market hasn't come yet is that this so-called new Luna is still fucking up and running, and it's valued at what, $10 billion just 2 days ago. That's ridiculous. How do you have that? Like, I mean, that's just, it shouldn't be happening. So, anyways.
Yeah. It's. I mean, that's one place where the SEC is right, that it's sort of a speculative asset bubble. And, that's another reason why it's going to be healthy for the bear market to clear out all this garbage and for us to be in somewhat of a bear for quite some time. Because, there's a lot of hope, I think, in having regulations come, and then we're going to know projects are real. If they jump through the hoops and they fill out the paperwork and they dox themselves and they do all this stuff that they're going to need to do in a year or two, we're going to at least know that we're dealing with people who are trying legitimate projects. So that it's going to be a whole brave new world in a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I think what we just had was very, very similar to the dot-com bubble. It's basically the E2000 of crypto. So if you look at E2000 of crypto, it's basically like tech stocks or dot-com stocks. You basically only had Amazon and eBay. Now eBay isn't even that crash hot anymore, so only Amazon kind of survived. No one else that are big right now came from that era. So Netflix only came around in 2003, end of 2002. It didn't go through the dot-com bubble. If you look at Zoom, if you look at YouTube, Facebook, all those, even Google, all those big ones came later after the year 2000. So I think, this could be a case where in 10, 20 years from now, we're all like using crypto. I do think it has a massive future. By then, I think only one or two, seriously, it's probably something like Bitcoin or maybe Ethereum, maybe. It's hard to predict. Will hang around by then. And then all the new ones that you think, of course, we're using this coin or that token, will only probably be invented 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. Remember, Facebook didn't go on trading at the New York Stock Exchange till 2008, 2009, something like that. YouTube wasn't up till 2003. A lot of the stocks that were hanging around during the year 2000 are just not around anymore. Pretty much vast majority.
What's so interesting about that? I read an article that was so interesting explaining that, and one of the reasons is that they have time to look at the predecessors. I mean, MySpace and all these failed little, things that had it almost right, like little social networks that had things almost right. I think that the blockchain that wins might not be here yet because they need failures first. Solana failed for this reason. Ethereum may one day fail for gas prices. Avalanche may fail for whatever reason. And so the ones that come next, like Google, Facebook, all this, Google was not the first search engine. Everybody knows that there were all these other little search engines. But
okay,
Google
here's a little trivia for you, Brian. Do you know what Google was ranked in terms of users, in terms of daily? I think it's daily users or monthly users, whatever metric they use. Do you know what Google's ranking was? And do you know what the number one search engine was?
Ask Jeeves or something.
The number one search engine was Yahoo, created by Jerry Yang. And Google was ranked number 19 in terms of monthly users, whatever metric they use. So there you go. So in other words, basically, we're all saying Ethereum is going to be the future, whatever. We say Algorand is going to be Ethereum killer. AVAX is going to be Ethereum killer. Matic will essentially, even though it's built on top of Ethereum, will be an Ethereum killer. Whatever, right? Then in the end, if history is any guide, Ethereum, Yahoo's not even listed right now on the New York Stock Exchange. You can't even buy stocks on Yahoo. It's been delisted. So in 20 years from now, one crypto is going to be taking over the world like Google. And you find, by the way, where's Ethereum? It's been delisted. It's not even around anymore. And what was ranked number 19th? That was some coin nobody's ever heard of. I don't know, like it could be Cherry, could be Pocket, could be one of those. And now it's now that is now the rage that everyone's been talking about. Where it hasn't even been invented yet, because Google wasn't even around during during the time of when Yahoo was doing well during the 2000 tech bubble.
Yeah, so I actually read a biography on Google, and they invented this thing called PageRank, which was named after Larry Page, who's the co-founder of Google. And they looked at why search engines were failing, and it was very easy to game the search engines back then. You could just put, a web page up that said crypto, 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 and they would say, "Oh, this must be important. It says crypto a million times," but it wasn't important. It was spam, right? So they had to figure out how to track which websites were important, not just spamming. And so they came up with this thing called PageRank after Larry Page, who was the co-founder. But the point, none of that really matters. The point is that they needed predecessors to innovate further and refine the concept. They needed a failure, Ask Jeeves, DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, all these other search engines, to innovate and build something better. So that's why when Pablo and I tell, and we're blue in the face screaming at you guys, it might not be Algorand, it might not be Ethereum, it might not be Solana, it might not be Avalanche. Guys, you got to listen to this, because these are just the early predecessors that are failing forward. You guys have heard that famous business phrase, fail forward, right? When you fail, go forward, innovate. All these cryptos are failing forward.